Hey guys, Varbo here from TheCraftScience, and I'm doing a redo of my Tileable Player Shop review. I felt like I didn't do a very good job in the last one, kind of being vague on some stuff, so I decided to redo it. I like to start off with going through well, let me clear this first. Going through the trades, and then I'll go with some of my goals of the project and stuff. You can see I put in one emerald and I got one redstone block out. Let's try this one. Just to prove that they're tileable, you know. So let's do that. And just a quick note, MC Edit is kind of derpy right now with the trapped chests. I copied this over to I copied it from there and I just like tiled it with MC Edit instead of building it. I cheated, I know. But it doesn't make any noise, which is weird, so I don't know. I'm not complaining. Same thing with these. But if I were to like grab one and place it, then it makes noise. So yeah. Let's keep going. You guys saw how that worked, right? I put in one and then they're all right next to each other. I think that's the best part about it. The next thing I'd like to show is that these indicator lights, if the thing doesn't have any stock, and the thing I mean by if the shop doesn't have any stock. So let's pull out all the stock from this one. There is still a problem of putting in emeralds, and that's why the indicator lights are there, is to show that there is no stock. If you're going to put in an emerald when there is no stock, then you're just going to lose your emerald, and there's no way around that. I have to have some way to prevent this hopper from taking in the emerald by reading way up here, and so I'd have to go through this, and I'm not advanced enough in Redstone to even do that, and honestly I don't know if it's possible, but the indicator light does take care of it, or at least the majority of it, so that's not something I'm too worried about. That was proof that they are tileable. Here, I'll give you guys a quick glance at the side here. Some quick things to cover are that this, in comparison to my last design, which was not tileable, is actually one taller and one more in length. I think it's a small sacrifice, but you know, it depends on what you're building with. I also got rid of the double clicking. This comparator used to update this dropper all the time. Sorry, I had to. There was a lot of vocabulary I had to establish there. I keep saying dispenser, and I'm still not used to the dropper, so I stopped for a second there to make sure I said it right. So yeah, the comparator would update the dropper over and over and over again, like repeatedly, if it was on this level right here, and if it was on this level and on top of the dropper, then it would, how would I say it? It would update the dropper again after it had after the system had already turned on again. So it'd click twice basically, but it would only dispense one item. So it's still operational. It's just not. It just has this double click. Just so you guys know, these are all powered individually. There is a problem. It's not. It is a feature. So that's something to point out. But this can prove to be inaccurate information if I were to have all these tiled next to each other. So I figured out the way around it. Basically, lamps can absorb strongly powered power from a block and be weakly powered. So I just strongly powered all these, and then the lamps absorb independently from each other, and they don't power each other. So yeah, that's about that. Here's a little recommendation I have discovered, and I mean, it's not that difficult, but I don't want one of those anyways. So let's grab a normal chest right here, place it on the top, and let's get some hoppers, and you just place all along here. And then when you come to receive your stock, you just go and grab it from that one chest. This right here is supposed to be the floor level, so all of this should be underground. You notice how this is 3 high? You only need 2 high to basically walk around in a room, so you can actually drop this down into the ground. Like let's say this is the basement floor that I'm standing on, and you would want to have it like this high, so you can just, you know, walk around, and it just lowers it into the ground even more. You're gonna need up to this high for a roof, so that's why I had those blocks there. It's just my roof. Another thing is that, yeah, if this is the floor level, then all the way out to here is what it would be above ground, and I tried to condense it all to this side as much as I could, especially up here, and that's the best I could do, really. You just put a wall right here, I think. I mean, that would do it. So, yeah, let's go in to the actual theory behind it, why it works, and why being tileable works as well, which is a little bit difficult to explain, actually. So let's start off with actually putting an emerald in there. So an emerald. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. But you guys heard it click, right? And basically what it did was it activated the dropper up there. What it does is this comparator is reading from this hopper right here, not this one, because you can actually loot this hopper, which is one of my goals. I wanted to prevent, when I started this project, I wanted to prevent people from looting either one of these. So that way you couldn't, it'd be ungriefable beyond, like, prefacing people breaking blocks. So yeah, this right here is something called a smart hopper, which one of my friends on YouTube designed. And this hopper right here has 22 emeralds in it, 18 if you just count the first one. This is how I'm denoting it, it's just 18 in this hopper, and you can ignore these. They're there for a reason. It's to prevent any objects from going in, and it just won't allow, the hopper won't absorb it. It'll just keep it up in that hopper right there. So basically this hopper, when it receives the 19th one, will actually extend out another block of power, which powers this repeater here and powers this repeater. We're going to focus on this bottom part right here first. Depowering this torch, which then allows this hopper to draw out one item. When it draws out that one item, it will it'll take away this one power, so it basically turns this torch right back on with the time allotted to pull out one item. This hopper also has an item in it which it pushes into there immediately, so it's drawing in as it's pushing out, and you get this like little flow going. So the second half, which is the activation half, gets activated here whenever it extends out another block, and then it goes into this block which depowers this torch, which powers this torch, depowering this torch, which ends up turning off this circuit, but we'll go into that later. It's basically mainly to be turned back on, that's why it's there. Then this gets turned on and this gets turned off. So these right here, this is off, that block is off, and that is off. And these are really important actually. This block right here is preventing items from flowing, if there were any in here, from this hopper into this one, or from this hopper into the dropper. Oh, I almost said it again. And this torch right here is preventing items from falling from the chest into the hopper or moving out even more. So remember how the time allotted here was to take out one item? Well, the same thing applies up here. It takes out one item, and then this turns off, which then turns everything back on up here, which would have enough time to send an item into this dropper right here. You'd have to run it a couple times because it actually does take time to go from here, and then it would be like one round, and then one round, and then it'd be in here. So that's like 2 times, I think, to run it, and then it would actually start dropping or dispensing, however you want to say it. So after this turns off again, this actually turns back on, and that activates the repeater, activating this block, activating the dropper, which actually shoots out your item, which was just moved down by the hopper. The indicating light right here is, I already explained this portion. Something to note is that these comparators, if you are to copy this with MCEdit, I don't know about any other tools like World Edit, but if you're to copy this with MCEdit over and over, then you need to update the comparators whenever you unload the chunk. So that includes logging out or anything like that. Basically, they're acting funny, and I don't know exactly what's going on, but if you place it normally, if you build the shop normally without copying it over from somewhere, then it's fine for unloaded chunks. But if you're going to use MCEdit to move it over to a different place, or even make like a tile, just like copy, copy, copy over, then you're going to need to replace these each time. I do honestly believe that will be fixed within like the next MCEdit update, so I'm not worried about that. Otherwise, I would just not recommend it at all. So here I have 3 right next to each other. This right here is actually the grandfather one. This is the one I started off with, and you can see in comparison to my original model, or actually this is like the 4th model I've actually made, and each time gets more condensed and more accurate. But I'll show you the double click again in case any of you guys forgot. Drop in 4 emeralds actually. You saw that, right? It actually took a lot more time because I dropped in so many, so you're going to see some items in here. That is one problem with changing up the timing down here, which just so you guys know, changing up this timing would actually allow the machine to need more items to be activated. So if I were to change this to 4 ticks, then it actually gives it enough time to pull out 2 emeralds. So the next time you run it, after you run it one time from there, it'll require 2 emeralds to activate again. But that also means that this is going to be activated for longer. So if you hook up a pulse limiter to here, then it should be just fine. As you hook up a limiter, which is the exact same size as however long it takes for this to work. I would say it's 1 tick, but I'm not absolutely sure. So you guys can figure that out for yourselves. I'll honestly be figuring that out soon as well. If you guys were wondering, this is claimed to be fully customizable, and that is not a fabricated idea. This is customizable in the input ratio by how I just explained. If you want to make it even more, then you would extend this out. So you're sacrificing room. This is 1-to-1 and the smallest I can make it, but you're going to sacrifice room if you're going to want to require more items to be input. As well, if you're going to want more items to be output, then you need to hook up a double line. And what I mean by that is a line that comes off and takes a little bit more delay and then reactivates this portion of the circuit right here. Oh, and yeah, in this. So it needs to activate that torch again and these. So I would suggest having taking power from here and then hooking up a line right here. You can even put not a comparator, but a repeater here, set to 4 ticks, and that should do just fine. Just so you guys know, the same would apply over here. If you have this on 4 ticks, then you're going to need to pulse limit this as well. So maybe if you're going to do that, then you would have the pulse limiter before these two, but otherwise you can just have it after. So yeah, you'd have a double line, which takes a little bit longer. This entire line would deactivate because this deactivates, and then this line would reactivate it for one more time. So that's how you would dispense multiple items. And honestly, if you're going to dispense more than 2 for one, then you're going to need to hook up something like a shift registry, so that way it'll continually, like, you wouldn't have to worry about it's a shift registry, and to my understanding, is basically in layman's terms like a clock that has end point. So it just runs for a certain number of times in a loop, and that's layman's terms. So that doesn't exactly accurately describe what it is, but that's what I would call it for this case. And I think that shows exactly what you would need to make this fully customizable. Some other things, each one of these chests is going to need to be staggered. So you're going to need to do a normal chest and then a trapped chest. You can tell that that's a trapped chest because you can't hear the actual chest opening. Oh yeah, so just to point out again, see how this is the old model right here, and you can see how this block actually extends out one more. And also, here's the old model, and you can see how this is one higher. That's just to show that again. Although this is tileable, so it's fully worth it, I would say. I haven't exactly built a model into the ground to show you guys what that would look like, but just imagine it being like this. Like, you wouldn't even have to worry. It's not very high. The building won't need to be very high. I don't really see it being possible to stack one of these entire circuits on another one without having the entire bottom be separate from the entire top up here. So I guess it would be a one-story situation unless you're gonna have really tall stories. Anything else? Oh yeah, I do want to give credit to MC Phaser. I mentioned him earlier, or at least I mentioned his idea. This is the Smart Hopper, and he created it. And that's not it in its entirety. It's actually this right here. So let me make this again. Put the repeater there and the torch here. Okay, so it's kind of specific on how it works, and you need to follow one rule, I guess you could say, and if you do that, then it will work. This right here is part of my own design, so it's not actually required for the Smart Hopper. If you're going to use the Smart Hopper like this, then you need to actually make sure, what was that? Oh, this is the bat flying through. You need to make sure that this hopper is not pointing towards the hopper that's right here. Because if it is, then the hopper has 2 main activities that it can perform. It can intake stuff and it can outtake stuff, or output stuff, however you want to word it. And this hopper right here, since it's not facing down, will not try to output things. But this hopper right here, since it is open to the top, will try to take things. Basically, you're preventing the flow of items down unless this torch is deactivated. This torch is actually um, preventing this from taking in items right now. And that's one thing that you need to understand is that you can't have the hopper pointing down at all. If you do, then it won't work because it'll just basically overrun. It'll override this torch by just outputting items regardless of this hopper taking in items. As for what makes it tileable, comparators are interesting in the fact that here, let's put in some stuff. I'm gonna put in 64, and let's extend the signal out. So you guys see that? Here, I'll use a hopper. That way you'll get more of a you'll see more. Okay, so you see how it goes out and extends out that far, right? Well, if I'm going to extend it out over here, then it's actually going to need to if I'm going to extend it laterally, I should say, then it's going to need to be powered farther to equal the same distance in, let's say this is X right here, and let's say this is Y. Okay, so it's going to need more power to equal the same X as it would if, oh, that's just too complicated. I'm even losing myself. Basically, it's going to need more power. So what this does is, here, let's take out some items. Let's just put in a few right there. Basically, what it does is it's at this state right now. Okay, it's going to be always at this state, and it's going to be trying to power this block right here. Let's add in a few more items. So let's go here until we have 15, and let's keep going. 18. One more, I think. 2 more. Yeah. So now what it does is, now that it's reached the threshold, where it's going to extend another one, it actually moves and powers this one to the side. It would need to be powered even more to power this block right here, and so that's what prevents it from activating two of the circuits, even though they're right next to each other. It only activates this one right here, and that's why the repeaters are important. I guess I should have mentioned that earlier. And you can use comparators. I don't see why I even proved that right here, but I was just using repeaters because they're cheaper. Nether quartz is a deep game item, so I would just use a repeater for that, although you do need it for this entire thing. So yeah, that's why this works on the bottom half, and the rest of it is literally just torches. Like, you can't use redstone here because then it starts to activate like that, and that'll cause problems, which was something, it wasn't that difficult to find a way around. I didn't want to incorporate pistons at all because pistons are full of problems right now, especially with the redstone block, which is what I would be tempted to use. Here, let me pick those back up. Let's do that, and I'll put a block of redstone on top, and then I'll power it with this switch. So if I power it, right, and I take away the switch, then it's always going to stay open like this, right? Which can be a problem. I think that it will actually stop if I, nope, see, even if I update it, it's not going to. And so that's going to cause like one-way circuits basically, which would be great, but not for this. And as you can see, I'm trying to send power up. So yeah, I would have had to like zigzag it all the way up, and that's not worth it at all. Not to mention, it might have interfered with some other things. I don't think there'd be room, and it wouldn't be that big. Or it would be bigger, sorry, it wouldn't be this big. Or this small, rather. So yeah, that is my actual in-depth and I feel good review of the one-wide player shops. I'm really excited about this, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. Thank you guys. This is Varbo from TheCraftScience. Have a nice day.